maybe you should try working out because you have all this pent up anxiety. You've got all this pent up aggression. You're looking for a place to explode, basically.
Welcome to Motion Matters, where we shine a light on the entrepreneurial journey, sharing real stories of triumph and challenge. Guided by Jamie Tilka, we connect, inspire, and educate. This is Motion Matters.
Hello and welcome to Motion Matters. This is the entrepreneurial podcast in which we talk about the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship and try to have real conversations about the things that can go wrong with that. Today, I have a fellow mastermind friend, Fraser Baley, coming all the way from Auckland, New Zealand. And I asked him to come on because he is big into the nutritional and fitness space. He's got a phenomenal story and a great message. And I want to share it with other people so that they can hear about his story and be inspired by that. So, Fraser, welcome to the show.
Jamie, brother, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to just drop some real value, as a fellow entrepreneur, husband, father, all those labels, right? Trying to reinvent yourself in the world and show up as the best version of yourself. So I'm excited to talk with you about all that stuff, man.
Hey, I'm super pumped about it, man. I know I got to leave here and figure like I need to go home and do at least, 10 more burpees and some more sit-ups and stuff like that. But so let's kick off like I always do. If you could, please just give people a little bit of background on who is Fraser Baley and then kind of, navigate us into what led you into true, entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So my story is a wild one in the sense that I now work as a high-level concierge nutritionist. Essentially, I work with human optimization. So I'm taking someone from their point A, from their current self, and looking to basically upgrade their physiology, upgrade their psychology through understanding how blood work affects their hormone systems, their thyroid systems, and the relationship of that with their diet, with their lifestyle, with supplementation, all those different levers, right? So I'm there at this point now, but many years ago, I was a butcher when I first started my journey. I was in a very different place in my life. I grew up in Auckland, New Zealand, like you mentioned. I now live in Tennessee, so this beautiful Smoky Mountains. And back when I was in my teens, I was diagnosed with a lot of mental health issues, man. Severe bipolar depression, ADHD, learning disabilities, severe social anxiety as well. And I was heavily medicated for about 10 years. So heavily medicated on a raft of things. And I didn't do well at school. Like it's a classic entrepreneurial thing, right? Didn't fit into the traditional school model, really struggled with that. And I just thought I was stupid. I just resided to myself to the fact that, okay, I'm just going to have to go get a blue-collared industry job. I'm a dumbass. It is what it is. All good. I'll just go get paid. And so I left school at 15 years old and I went and worked in a butchery. So the biggest butchery in New Zealand at the time. And like any blue-collared industry, for any of the listeners, most blue-collared industries, they have a lot of like addiction and sort of this wolf pack vibe. It's usually driven by men, of whether it be carpenters, electricians, butchers, plumbers, you name it. It's going to be male-dominated stuff. And there tends to be a sort of a pecking order. There's a lot of sort of testosterone, and there is a lot of mental health issues in those industries, and especially the butchery. And so me being already mentally health challenged, going into the space, it was like adding jet fuel to the fire. So I spiraled down, really out of control. I actually even had like a suicide attempt, overdosed. I was in the wrong crowds of people. A lot of the people that I associated with back then are either have been in prison for years, like decades, or they're dead. So it's like one of those things where I was really on the other side of the railroad, And so all this to say, that was really where I began. And through a lot of self-discovery, through a lot of help from other people, I got some psychotherapy. And my psychotherapist at the time, he opened the door to me about, hey, maybe you should try working out because you have all this pent up anxiety, you've got all this pent up aggression, you're looking for a place to explode, basically. And at the time, this is before YouTube was a common thing. Podcasts did not exist. So I had no clue that exercise could help with mood stabilization or any of these things. I didn't know any of that. I just thought, well, if you work out, it's because you want to be a bodybuilder. That was it. It was like a vanity thing. And so I thought to myself, well, he's been right about other things that I've done in my life so far, having connected with him. I'll just give this a shot. And so I started going to one of the local gyms. And what I found, man, was like, it was like I gave myself a lifectomy. You know, all of a sudden I started to enjoy working out. I started to go to the gym in the morning. And so because I was so excited about going to the gym in the morning, seeing this crowd of guys that were typically at the time in their 30s and 40s. So I was like 20 years old. So they were 10 or 20 years older than me. They had families. They had businesses. They were entrepreneurs. And so it's kind of funny looking back now. I inadvertently stumbled into like a mastermind. Basically, I was this young hooligan that accidentally stumbled into a mastermind of fathers, men, business owners who were health focused. And I found that more and more I had less and less of a desire to go out at nighttime, do all the crazy stuff I used to do. And so it got to the point, man, where that lifectomy really took hold, and I cut ties with my old life completely. All the people, all this, everything. I quit my job in the butchery. I went back to study nutrition and human structure and function at college. And that's really what propelled me down this path. So in many ways, a lot of what I do now and a lot of what I teach has come off the back of figuring out my own life. You know, Rick, and put it this way, I'm now 12 years psychiatric medication free. So I was on all those things. I was pumped to the eyeballs with stuff. Now I've been 12 years psych med free. And my whole thing has been heal myself, fix myself, and then teach others to do the same. That's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because it's completely changed my life, Jamie. And especially now, having moved over to the US, got my US citizenship last year, been here for 12 years now. My wife, Lauren, is from Louisiana. We have a 5-year-old daughter, Zia. And as you know, being a husband, being a father, being an entrepreneur, it's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of labels and there's a lot of expectation. And especially being in some of the groups that we hang out in, you have high standards. Like, you have very high standards for what is possible for you. And what I've found with a lot of the guys that I work with now is that you have to look after your health, and you have to get your health dialed in as a way to handle the pressure and stress that entrepreneurship and life is going to throw at you, because it's going to come and hit you like Mike Tyson. And so if you are not physically dialed, it's going to affect that mental capacity. And so now at this point, coming over here, doing all this sort of higher level concierge nutrition optimization stuff, I've been so blessed, man, and fortunate to, having worked with guys like musician Chris Daughtry and musician Danny Warsnop from Asking Alexandria, all the way to like a lot of special operators. Part of being in these groups, I connected with, former Army Rangers, SEALs, and just, I guess my mentality and the things I'd overcome resonated with them, because we definitely had a mutual understanding. And I found that once you get into that community, they tend to share within the community. They want to support each other. So I've been really fortunate to have helped a lot of these retired special operators basically reinvent themselves after serving. And, for the guys that have been in like heavy combat and have TBIs and PTSD and all these things, knowing, like, understanding nutrition, understanding supplementation and how it affects the brain is really, really useful. So all this to say, Jamie, it's more than just abs. It's more than just having a beach body. To me, that's a byproduct of doing all the other stuff well. And so That's where really what I'm doing now. So I'm so fortunate to be doing that. So it's been a really wild ride, and I would not change it, man. I wouldn't change it, even though it's been hard. I would. Everything that I went through set me up to be this person that I am today.
I resonate with that. And I think probably the vast majority of entrepreneurs do, right? Like I constantly tell people I wouldn't change anything that I did because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I don't think I would be positioned for that. There's so many questions I want to ask more, intimate details about your business and some of those things. But I want to pull back to kind of the transitioning from the butcher to you getting your education, right? And then from there, you started your business. But my question for you is, was there a place where you thought, I'm going to get educated and then I'm going to work for somebody else's practice? And if you already knew straight that you were going to go into your own business, like, how was that process? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I also were you single at that time? Because I mean, a lot of people struggle with these things, right? Because when you go into the entrepreneurial space, the fact of the matter is there's massive amounts of risk. There's massive amounts of sacrifices that have to take place. I say this all the time. I'm like, unless you literally have $10 million sitting in the bank and you have the network of the best person on the planet, like you have to build all that crap. So everybody has to grind in the beginning, no matter how smart you are or how much perseverance you have grinding. So my question again is, when did you make that decision that you were going to start your own business, and like, what was the struggle like, deciding that you were going to take that leap?
Really, really good question, because I think that's very common for a lot of people, right? Whether with whatever industry you are in, you're going to get to that point where you're like, am I an intrapreneur or am I an entrepreneur? Like, am I better being in a business, being like the second in charge, helping someone run operations, or am I like the creative? Am I the person that's sort of that rebellious type that's like, man, I do not want someone else dictating my terms in my life? So exactly. I feel like for me, man, in a lot of ways early on, it's a bit like that analogy of, you're driving from Los Angeles to New York and you have your headlights on and you can see like, 200, 300 feet in front of you, but you can't see, Nashville. You can't see the end destination. You're sort of like, well, I kind of feel like I'm going in the right direction. This feels like it's the right direction, but I'm going to walk the path, and I have this faith that it will illuminate as I go. So it was almost like that feeling where I just thought to myself, okay, the first thing you need to do is just qualify and graduate, because I'd done so poorly at school. I failed so badly that I just needed to prove to myself that I wasn't a complete idiot. So the first thing was just pass the certifications, get qualified, get it. Then the second component initially was almost like contracting. I was like, okay, like I wonder if I could, contract and be a PT at different gyms where I'm, initially, man, I did more like training stuff. It was very low level. It started out very low level, like training people for an hourly rate, that type of thing. And I still had nutritional knowledge, but it was nothing compared to what it is now, like nothing. So I didn't have the same depth of skill set. And obviously that's reflective in how much you can charge. And so I was charging, 50, 60 bucks an hour. But you got to remember, like PTs, they're not working all hours of the day. They're working sort of early morning, afternoon, that's it. They have a big back gap in the middle. I feel like initially it was this sort of contract type thing. Then when I met my wife, Lauren, and there's a whole story behind that, I came over to the US to meet her because we were in some of the same fitness coaching like groups on Facebook. But she was in the fitness space, I was, and we were both sort of trying to figure out how to grow this fitness business stuff. And I came over here, and I feel like that's when we really went all in on like the true entrepreneurship. So at that point, we're together, and she shut down her little boutique female training studio because we could see the potential to build an online brand, like an online business. And it was real. Like we had seen it happen in the sense of money we could make. And the profit margins were insane. There was like minimal overhead. There was a massive amount of net potential profit. And I just thought to myself, then I can even coach people back in New Zealand. We can have clients in Australia, in England, anywhere. And so that's when we really went all in with the entrepreneurial stuff. But it was one of those examples of I didn't have it clear in my head to start with. And I could have just paralyzed myself into inaction and been like, oh God, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm just going to sit here and like just wait, like Dr. Seuss in The Waiting Place. Like you never get to the freaking point. Like you never actually break through because you're so busy like procrastinating on every single thing. And you always feel like, well, what if it doesn't work? And it's like, what if it does? And you almost have to cultivate this ignorance and this perception around failure that if I do something and it doesn't work, all it is feedback to me. It's just a data point on what do I need to change? Like what can I change with my approach? What can I change with my offer? What can I change with my pitch to make sure that actually converts better next time? So yeah, man, it's been one of those things where it's like driving the long distance road trip. And it's kind of illuminated as it's gone. But I will say the more you do it, the more faith you have. You know what it's like when you've been in the game long enough, you start to cultivate this faith that you can hit the home run, and you don't always hit it. Most of the time, you get punched in the face, but you do cultivate this like resilience. So it didn't start out with a plan. The plan was like to just fail forward. But I'm so thankful for that, man, because I could have never envisioned where I am right now. I could not envision this. I could have not said, oh, well, in 10 years' time, I want to be this concierge nutritionist that does blood work stuff and works with rock stars and CEOs of 8 and 9 figure businesses. I mean, like, it's so beyond the scope of like reality. And so I think for a lot of people, they think too realistic. They're grounded in too much realism. And my whole thing is like, what could happen if you just became psychotically obsessed with the thing that you were good at to the point where you're a category of one and you are so good that you don't even have to persuade people. They can just tell by your energy. And so, man, it's been that journey in terms of entrepreneurship. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
It does. It really does. Again, I resonate with so much that one things I love about being in the group that we're in together, and other groups, is seeing people that are ahead of their game than where I'm at. So like, yes, you're in fitness, but to see what you're saying, how far you've come, because I've heard your story before, it's just like, that's awesome and that's inspiring and that's what I need to keep doing so that I can then get to that space in my. Another thing is I just recently signed up with another mentor specifically with regards to speaking and some stuff that I would like to do with our business. Long story short, talked about an inch deep and a mile wide versus an inch wide and a mile deep. And so when you said that you became laser focused, that's the first thing that came to my mind. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And so then you become a true subject matter expert where they're like, I'm going to talk to Fraser. Like, why would I not?
100%, man. 100%.
No, that's awesome. So when you kind of kicked off the business though, so you got your education and you kick off your business, can you just talk about maybe one of those struggles that you had on that first part that maybe even had you questioning, like, should I really be doing this? Should I just turn around and go become an entrepreneur? You know, can you talk about one of those things?
I've felt like in my journey, there's been different struggles at different points, you know, and it's like as you evolve, like the game changes. And, you know, so early on, the struggle might just be to pay your rent. You know, like there's been a point in my journey where I remember early on, man, where my wife said to me, she said, if we don't figure this out, like we're not even going to be able to pay our mortgage. And that burned into my consciousness because I remember that was early on in the journey. And I just felt like, my God, I have to do something. Like I have to burn the ships and figure this out. And I remember her saying, if we don't do something, we're going to go bankrupt. And I mean, that's kind of like, that was the position that we were in. And so I know what that fear is like when you are just like, you have no safety net and you literally are just, you have no way out but to go through. And so that was one sort of moment in time. Another moment in time is when you become a parent. You go from being this, whether you're single or you're married without children, and then all of a sudden you have these little humans come into the world, and like your sleep's all disrupted, and they're waking up through the night, and your wife's exhausted, and the tension that comes with that, and you still have to find a way to operate regardless of that, because fundamentally, man, as you know, everyone deals with this stuff, and people don't. I don't want to say they don't care, but you can't get a client on board, promise a result for them, and not get the result or not deliver the thing to them and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, like my kids haven't been sleeping well this week." Like, you could say that, and I mean, in some cases, I think you might say something like that. But the point is that I would say parenthood, facing the navigation of that, supporting your spouse, trying to juggle the business in regards to parenthood, and making sure that you're still there. You're still a good parent. You're still active in their life. You're not just this full-blown workaholic where you're not present emotionally, right? I mean, that's one of the things that you and I think can really resonate on, is that I do not think that as an entrepreneur, if you're making a bunch of money and your business is cranking, but you're completely absent as a husband and a parent, that to me is an epic failure. Like, you're at that point, you need to recognize that what you've built is not sustainable if you want to keep your family. So I would definitely say, man, in terms of struggles, it was that literal financial struggle early on, and it really instilled into me this like work ethic of just really gritty, being able to push through all the bullshit and get stuff done when I least feel like doing it. And so that was early on. And then obviously, like I said, becoming a parent was another one. And then you have different problems as you evolve. So like as you grow, for me now, the next challenge is kind of like scaling and bringing on support crew, the right type of hiring. Like now it's at the point where we've grown so much, you get the growing pains, things break. Then you need to make sure you hire on the right people. You have the right support crew, so you are delivering on the promises that you're making to people. And then the next component of it is like, as you start making money, then it's like, oh crap, like what do I do with this? Like, where do I allocate this? Like, I don't want to get taken to the cleaners by the government for tax. So like, what do I do with this to preserve my capital? So it's a very different set of problems, but it kind of generates the same level of like frustration. So yeah, man, I would say like the problems have evolved, and each one came with like a unique set of circumstances. But I also feel like each one can teach you a lot about a different foundational principle within entrepreneurship. Like the having no money, being absolutely broke. It will teach you work ethic, man. It will teach you to push through in the absence of the result, because you have a vision in your head. And then obviously with the kids and becoming a parent, it's going to teach you to become a lot more efficient with your time management. You can't just lay around and watch a bunch of Netflix. Like you have to be very, very intentional with your energy when you are working to be hyper productive. So then when you come and you show up for your kids and your spouse, like you do the best you can. So again, that's kind of what a lot of what I teach with the health stuff ties back into energy management. So I think there's definitely a relationship there. So I hope that kind of answers some of that question, man.
Oh, it does. Again, I wanted to do this podcast because I just wanted to have real conversations with people to understand. Because again, somebody looks at Fraser Baley today, and I literally just said this to Mark on the previous call. It's like somebody looks at somebody that's at your level in your fitness arena, and they're like, "Dang, like, that dude's got it all figured out, and it's easy." What they don't understand is everything that you took, the sacrifices, the time, the financial struggles, all of those late nights potentially jeopardizing your marriage and your relationships and all those things. I tell people very openly that, my wife and I almost got divorced twice because I was a 24 years military veteran in the special operations community. She said, I literally saw you more, like at least when you were home, you were present. Now you're home, but you're not mentally present. So I totally get it. And you did answer the question, and I appreciate you sharing that, because again, what I want somebody to do is to be like, okay, I have to recognize the fact that I'm going to have to go through those struggles to get there, but also, hearing the real talk from people like yourself and other entrepreneurs that are sharing openly and candidly the struggles, and being vulnerable and talking about stuff. Like, it's easy for somebody to go rent the Lambo and take a picture in front of it and be like, yo, bro, I made it,
Dude, I'll tell you this, like, going through entrepreneurship has been the test of tests for my relationship, so like, it's dude, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, when you are in the trenches, it's real easy to become emotionally detached, to get addicted to different substances. I mean, like, I had a dependency on like just stimulants and sleep aids and all kinds of things. And it was just getting to the point where she could see that I was just like burning myself out. I wasn't present. I wasn't there. Even though my body was there, I wasn't there. And it's hard because like, you're trying to build this dream. You're trying to create this dream for the people that you love. And it's like you're building a tomb. And I've been in that place, man, like what you said, where you honestly feel like, is this the final straw that breaks the camel's back? And you sort of step back and you think to yourself, man, like, I did not want it to go this way. Like, I did not want my life to be this way. I had this vision for what it was going to be. Why is it not that? And I honestly think, man, like, getting your spouse on board and getting them excited and even brainstorming the dream with them, so like I'll talk to my wife, Lauren, about, the land we have in the Smoky Mountains and the house and the homestead that we're going to build and what she can do with that land and encouraging her to do passion projects that she loves around homeschooling and all these things. Like, you have to encourage your person to adopt, like, and be invested in the dream with you. Like, if you're just on this ride for you and they're just kind of like holding on, wondering like where we're going, it's going to be hard, man. And so I think, like, when you can be a team and you guys can look after each other, and this even comes down to like working out together, go on walks together. All these things, I talk about these things often because I really do feel like entrepreneurship combined with parenthood will test your relationship to the absolute limit. And if you can make it through that and you can make it out the other side of that, you guys can make it through anything, So I definitely understand. I know those lows, man. I really do.
I don't even have the right words to articulate how much I resonate with what you just said, particularly, again, as we like to say from my time in Asia, if I'm going to be full open kimono with you right now, like, we're battling these struggles right now, bro. Like, every single day. We've talked about this legitimately because of the sacrifices. Again, after 24 years of service, there was tons of sacrifices that were innate to that particular part of my life. But now it's like, I'm 52. And the question is, are we going to perpetuate this cycle? Because now I'm in entrepreneurship, which is a totally another beast. But anyway, I actually love that everything that you just said, because I think that's, again, it's another one of those struggles that people have to recognize. It's part of the process, man. It really is.
Yeah. And that's why, you have to look after yourself and your health and your psychology, because a lot of people don't realize, I say this often, that food is like software and your body and mind are the hardware. And what I don't think, and I didn't understand this for a long time, is how my diet choices, my lifestyle, if I go outside and walk in the sun, if I work out, if I do these certain things, how that can positively affect my brain chemistry or negatively affect it. So everything we do, whether it be the types of foods we eat, the types of supplementations we use, our sleep schedule, entrepreneurship, we're known for like really neglecting that sleep cycle. And I've seen how much that affects someone's mental health and psychology when those things are not factored in. And it's like, on a plane, for example, they're like, you need to put your oxygen mask on first, even before your kid, because if anything was to happen to you and you pass out, how are you going to save anyone? And obviously these principles are, foundational within the special operations community. These principles of like, you have to get yourself right. You have to be dialed in so you can be that support for the guy next to you. And I feel like a lot of us in entrepreneurship will almost like fall on the sword and you think you're doing something noble when in actuality, you're just setting yourself up to be low energy, low mood, irritable, disconnected. And I've seen it a lot, man. Like I've done stuff with a number of, 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs of varying scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the strain that it can take on their relationships and even with themselves. Like it's like one of the things that you were saying before, you're talking to Mark Evans. The challenges don't go away. They magnify. The challenges magnify, but you become progressively more skillful at problem solving them. So I do think, man, like working on your health, like I would say to as many entrepreneurs as possible, getting psychotherapy, getting marriage counseling, having a good self-care routine with a good diet, a good way to like move your body through the day, get a standing desk and a walking treadmill. Make sure you have a good workout routine, that you do something every single day in some capacity, because you have to treat yourself like a business athlete. I'm friends with a guy, Ryan Williams, and he is the CEO of Industry Threadworks, which is a clothing company. He's a former Navy SEAL. And he's even said that, and this is obviously his perspective, but he's even said that he feels like entrepreneurship was harder than being in the SEAL teams. He's like, man, like I thought the SEAL teams was tough. Like entrepreneurship has been the challenge of my life. And obviously everyone's going to have a different sort of perspective. And it's different types of challenges too. It's not the same, but all this to say, you have to really treat yourself like a business athlete and recognize that, like, I think marriage counseling, psychotherapy, good diet, all these things that we talk about, man, are really, really important for people if they plan to take their business to that next level and they want to still have a good life. You can take it to the next level and end up divorced or end up like fat and overweight and still create some financial success. But you've got to say to yourself, like, okay, if I want to go to that next level, if I want to expand my entrepreneurial ventures, like what foundational principles do I need to have in place to make sure that I do not go down that path of being like the wealthy, overweight, divorced guy, So important, man. So important.
It really, really is. Well, I'm looking at the clock and I know that we have a hard stop. So I want to leave a few minutes so that I can ask you a couple things about more specifically about your business. But well, I think I'm going to go right in there because I had another question in my brain, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So I just fell out of my head.
Go for it, man. Go for it, brother.
No, so can you just talk a little bit? So for the people that are listening, you talk about that you're, mind, body, wealth, fitness. You use some of the verbiage that is slipping right now. But if you could just talk a little bit more about what it is that you do in the service that you provide for people listening.
Yeah. So it is interesting. One of the things that I feel like is a little bit different with my approach is that a lot of people in the health space, a lot of people in the fitness space, they will pretty much give you, a workout, a diet, some supplementation, and that's kind of like, okay, go away and just do that, right? And I there was part of me that understands that model. That's like, okay, that's good for some people, right? But what I do is I sort of go a few layers deeper than that. So my whole thing is, let's know your data. So let's learn about you. And so we'll run a comprehensive blood panel, right? That's going to have your sex hormones, your thyroid, your lipid profiles, everything in it that basically says Jamie's chemical makeup in his body is either really good or there's a lot of things that are way off. And each of those things that are either good or off will be represented in how you look and feel. So it can make you age faster or slow down aging. It can affect the way your body burns body fat. Things like sleep, libido, energy levels, mood, all these things that will literally lay the foundation of your experience each day can almost be deciphered through things like blood work, hair mineral analysis, and like a food sensitivity testing. So it's just different types of testing. There's a lot to that, man. And it's one of those things where most people, they are more complicated than just some cookie cutter diet plan. There's nuance to them. So especially with the ladies, for example, as they move into their 40s and 50s, if they start going through menopausal changes, those hormone changes can really affect their mood, their energy, their digestion, the quality of their life. And obviously that's going to have an effect on them as a parent, as an entrepreneur. And it's the same thing for the guys. You know, as guys age, like if you keep doing the things you did when you were in your 20s, if you keep drinking or eating the wrong foods and doing the wrong things, like eventually, man, like that catches up and that starts to present itself as like atherosclerotic plaque buildup in your cardiovascular system, like heart disease. I've seen people come to me with their blood work and some of their labs were like red flags for heart attack. You know, these are guys in their early 40s. And not only do they look like they're like in their 50s, they're very weathered just from life and stress and alcohol and these things. But I would tell them, I said, look, like you have to figure this out. We have to figure this out now because there's a lot of red flags here. And this is more than just abs and looking good. You need to make sure that you're actually here for your family. So a lot of what I do, man, is it goes deeper. It goes much deeper. And a part of it is like that quality of life thing. So it's basically like this higher level optimized nutrition processes, you know, and because we're online, have the beautiful aspect of being able to connect with people anywhere. So you can do all this stuff remotely.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I wanted to give a chance for people to understand because I've talked to a couple of people that have enrolled in your program and I've heard nothing but spectacular things about the results.
Thank you.
Just recently, my wife and I say recently, meaning in the past, few months, you mentioned this earlier, and that was one of the things I was going to say is for her, she's like, I just want to work out together because that time is meaningful for me. And so we ended up hiring a personal trainer.
Yep.
And if I'm being super honest, some of my military buddies are like, bro, man, like you were special forces. Like, why do you, and I was like, I don't want to think about this shit. I just want to go in and I want somebody to tell me what I'm doing. I'm already stressed out about how many bills are going to get paid, or is the power going to shit? Is the contractor going to show up? Did we get the tile and stuff? Like, there's all these other things. Like, I just want to walk in for 30 minutes and somebody said, do this, 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 and this.
I think that you giving that gift to your wife of training together as a team is an absolute gift. Like, I think everyone, if they have the capacity, should do something like that. I've said to my wife, Lauren, so we have a garage gym set up at our rental property. And I said to her, hey, like on the days you train, let's train together. I'll just do a little extra workout. I don't care if we train booty all freaking the whole time, man. I don't care. Like, I want to do it with you as a way to connect.
Let me just add to that by saying, with my military training and my military background, I told her, I said, the reason why I love that so much is because one of the reasons why I believe military relationships are so tight is because when you go through super adverse shit or really bad situations together, you just become tighter. It's that simple, So yes, I freaking love that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So do you have either one piece of advice or maybe a book that really impacted you that you would recommend to people, or a piece of advice for, inspiring entrepreneurs?
I would say there's a couple of books, actually. There's a book by T. Harv Eker called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Okay.
That's a really good book if you're sort of wanting to change your narrative around the way you see money. Another one is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. So that one really helps you just kind of get to the root of you as a person. And then another one is Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And so I love those resources, man. And I think books have been a really pivotal part of my journey to help me change the way that I think. And I would say, honestly, like a good piece of advice for anyone listening, and I know that you're going to resonate with this, is you must invest in yourself and get into groups of people that are ahead of you. So like there's masterminds on all kinds of things, whether it be entrepreneurship, real estate, health and fitness, marriage, being more of a man, homeschooling, everything and anything. I would tell you that your ability to get around people that are 1, 2, 3, 10 steps ahead of you and get into proximity with those people and learn from them like a maniac. Because if you don't have good people in your ecosystem currently, you are going to essentially just be a byproduct of those people. So in conjunction with books and podcasts like this, being in a group of people that have figured out the stuff that you're trying to figure out, man, that is priceless. I'm in multiple mastermind groups. We spent over 170K on masterminds last year because of how much it's had an effect on not only the way I think about money and business, but it's collapsed my time horizon towards my goal. So like what would have taken me, 10, 20 years to figure out the hard way, I've been able to compress that time down to like 1-2 years and remove so much of the error. It would be like, if you'd never used a firearm in your life, and then all of a sudden you got to spend a whole month with a bunch of special operators. You would come out the back end of that so proficient with firearms, the amount of training that you would have to do, you'd have to train for like 2 years.
Yeah.
But because you immerse yourself, so all this to say, that proximity to people that have the result that you want, have sustained that result, and have taught others to do the same, dude, fundamental.
Yeah. You're preaching exactly what I preach. I'm not even going to regurgitate what you said. All I'm going to do is say a big fat amen.
Oh, yeah,
so thank you for bringing that up.
Brother, my
well, I know time is at our end, so I just want to give you an opportunity, Fraser, to let people know how they can contact you. Where can they find you? Social media, Instagram, emails, websites. Go ahead and lay it all out there if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'm on, if you search Fraser Baley, FraserBailey on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Fraser Baley as well. I would just say those are going to be the best places to reach me first because, and we also have a new project that I'm working on called superhumanschool.com. So it's superhuman and then school, SKOOL, superhumanschool.com. And that's essentially my signature course and the community that I run of health conscious people that all want to kind of get the information that I have, apply it, learn. We do Q&As, all that type of stuff. So that is actually kind of like the mastermind thing I just referred to you about. So that I would say those are going to be the main places to contact me. I do have other things. I've got some free downloads relating to blood work, a superhuman blood work blueprint, a superhuman travel protocol. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, I can send them the links for all of that stuff as well.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate even more you taking the time out of your day to sit here and talk to the listeners and share your story and your experiences. My hope is that it resonates with other people and inspires them to take that proverbial step off the cliff towards building the life that they dream of. So thank you very much, Fraser.
Dude, my pleasure, man. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. I will see you probably in Nashville.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Peace.